It's TGIF, you're welcome to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. Your one-stop shop for information, news, and the right conversations to start your day right. I am Benga Aborowa, and we have quite a lot in store for you today.
All right, welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I am Olive Emodi. A number of conversations will be explored. I want to urge you to please join us to be a part of the conversation via X at News Central TV. If you know there's any updates that you feel that you'd like to share with us, we'll be glad to take this updates, especially as we look at the fire that got the fire that affected the Fakoi Hospital in Lagos. If you're an eyewitness, you saw what happened. We're very open to getting feedback from you as well. But TGIF, thank God it's Friday.
Let's start with the first wake-up conversation.
Won't you even talk? You just want to go straight into wake-up conversation. Let's celebrate that today is Friday first now.
Jesus is coming soon. Everything has to be moving fast.
Yesterday was Thursday. Today is Friday. Let us talk.
Okay, let's relax. Yeah.
What happened to Johansson yesterday?
Why are we starting?
Thank God it did not be Johansson yesterday at Town Hall.
Wow, it was a hula baloo. Different political hallelujah boys trying to impress who they are trying to impress. It was a different town hall. We've had town halls all over the country, but when it got to Rivers People's own, they decided to take matters. No, we will not talk.
Into their own hands.
They had to take the intervention of our dear MD. When they now saw his presence, things now relaxed. But it went on for too long. I also felt sorry for Johansson. He was
when he decided
trying to play the diplomat, but they didn't listen to him. They no agree. It was a very different town hall.
All right.
I really wish we can see the video.
I really wish. Okay, we'll try and see what we can do if we can play the video. But now let's go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at wake-up conversations. Stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's time for wake-up conversations. We talked about the town hall that happened yesterday in Port Harcourt. First of all, shout out to our River State audience, everyone watching us all the way from River State. Thank you for being a part of Breakfast of News Central, for loving us, loving our content, and showing up for the town hall yesterday. I believe that we have clips from the town hall that we can share to show you what's happening. And I want to also say a big shout out and thank you to News Central team for always going where the story is and bringing in the feedback from the audience.
TV used to be unidirectional, but now we're feeling the pulses both ways.
All right, let's take a look at what happened yesterday at the Rivers Town Hall.
I'm sure let's settle down. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's settle down. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, remember we gave the rules. Remember we gave the rules. Remember we gave the rules here. Please, let's... Honorable. Honorable members, please, we would... All right, so... Hold on. Honorable members, please, let's take our seats. Honorable members, please, let's take our seats, please. Please, we are broadcasting live and would like each and every one of us to please. There are ways we can respond to this. We have the power, which is the microphone. Please, we have the microphone. We have the microphone, please. Please, we have the microphone. Please, honorable members, please, let's sit down. Our distinguished guests, please. We have...
And that is an excerpt from what happened yesterday. Of course, there was more. We only just played that because I told you about how things almost went out of hand.
Emotional when you're discussing politics, because people are on different sides of the aisle. And the gentleman said what wasn't comfortable and palatable. He has a right to say, to express himself. That's why it's a town hall. You're not going to, everybody's not going to say what you want to hear. And the other gentlemen didn't agree with him, and they said he's not going to talk. Interesting developments, but I'm happy it was settled. It didn't descend into violence or fisticuffs. So kudos. And of course, like you said earlier, kudos to News Central management for always taking the news to the people and giving them a chance to express themselves and grievances, speaking to all the stakeholders involved. Yesterday's town hall was about the state of democracy in Rivers State and other issues such as pipeline vandalism, security, and things that have to do with the
state of Rivers State. But you know what? I even think that the argument and the disagreement that we saw there was proof that we're doing something right. Because when you bring different people to the table to have a conversation, they will all not agree.
Of course.
They all have different sides, which is why we're there, to hear the different sides of the argument and to ensure that we bring them all to the center. So that's exactly what has happened. Different sides of the argument have come together, different people on the different sides of the divide have come together to share what their thoughts are, what their concerns are, and of course the questions and conversations. There's the political angle, there's the insecurity state, but News Central, again, will always go where the story is. Today we're in Rivers State, tomorrow we'll be somewhere else where the voices of the people need to be amplified.
Yesterday we were at Ifako Hospital in Lagos, saw development where a fire incident occurred there. But let's watch the video and then we'll come back to discuss the issues. Not a very palatable situation, but kudos to the men of the Lagos State Fire Service. They were able to put out the fire, and as reported, there were no casualties. But this raised a lot of questions about
how did the fire come about?
Safety preparedness, how did the safety come about? How did the fire come about?
Yeah, there's still investigations ongoing regarding the fire. The good thing is that nobody was hurt. It happened yesterday. We hear that it was reported at 3:20 p.m. at the facility which is located along Iju Road. And then after a while, things were brought into order. We hear that it was just a minute fraction of the facility that caught fire, and that it was quickly brought under control. The Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service described it as a minor fire, and they said it was it was confined to a nursing room on the second floor. So that they've sorted it out. Normal operations have resumed. Medical services to the public have continued, and that no casualties have been recorded. But again, like we said, an investigation into the cause of the fire is being, conducted. But when it comes to fire and fire safety, my worry oftentimes here in Nigeria is the fact that I don't know if we have sufficient firefighting operatives and facilities.
Or even in the building facilities themselves.
Yes, so in the building facilities,
are there fire hydrants?
Exactly.
How much training do you do?
So those are the things I want to exactly. How many people know how to use a
remember
fire
where we worked before? We used to have fire drills.
Fire drills from time to time.
And then people would assemble at the muster point. So you need to drum this into the consciousness of the staff that in case, it's not a case of God forbid. I mean, nobody prays for it, but you should be prepared for eventualities. This sort of things can happen. So you prepare, so it's not a double disaster.
Yeah.
So you prepare the mind of your staff and let them have health and safety training once in a while Every adult should be able to give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation,
CPR.
CPR,
I should know
things like that.
fire etiquette. Like when there's a fire disaster,
when there's a fire,
what do you do?
You're not running back to carry your Birkin. You're running to save your life.
Safety, exactly.
Yes.
I have, like you mentioned, so my current apartment where we live, every flat has to have a fire extinguisher. Every flat has a fire extinguisher. So it's something that when I got there, I was very impressed by that because I thought, okay, these are safety standards. Although now, if you start to enforce that, landlord is going to add like 500,000 naira to your house rent.
Thank God for FRSC too.
For fire charges.
That forces us to put fire extinguishers
in our cars as well, yes. But yes, good news.
So please, if there's any, even me sometimes, maybe I'm making breakfast, and I see that sometimes if you're making all this food, if you're frying with palm oil,
fire will come out of the pan.
Fire will come out because of. Sometimes I'm also a chef. If you don't know this,
must be nice.
My spectacular dishes. I remember one time fire just came out. I had to leave my iPhone 16 and run away. But it's a story for another day.
No, that is not.
Is iPhone 16 out yet?
That's how you know that it's a big fat lie. Anyway, so yes, we hope that there'll be more conversations, and maybe that's something to consider on the show, fire protocols, teach people. For example, in this scenario where Gbenga talks about the fire coming out of the pan, what's the first thing you do? Do you flee, or do you just take a pot or a lid and quickly trap the fire so you starve it of oxygen? What happens when your body's on fire? But let's move on to our next conversation this morning on Wake Up Conversation. And there is the possibility of a London press conference where certain high-profile ministers will be.
This is called Don't Angry Me. And it's making me angry because just last week,
Buy Nigeria.
the paint for signing that Buy Nigeria executive order has not even dried. And you are taking the scorecard and announcing your achievements in London. Tell me, in what universe does this make sense? How can this appeal? How do you even defend this in the first place? Because the ministers are Nigerians. We're all Nigerians. Your constituents are Nigerians. So why do you need to go to London?
So let me just even tell them what it is. It is called the President Bola Tinubu Midterm Legacy Project Review Committee, and his project coordinator is Bode Adeyemi, and who announced on Tuesday that the event seeks to reshape global perceptions of Nigeria's governance under Tinubu's leadership. Conference is expected to feature a high-profile delegation, including the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, and the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. However, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning has said that Atiku Bagudu, that is, he has sang an optimistic tune about how Nigeria's economy is experiencing significant progress, driven by bold reforms, improved coordination, and a renewed focus on national priorities. Again, coming back to the conversation about why does this need to happen here? Why does this need to happen abroad? Yesterday we talked about how 30% of Lagos State workers who went abroad for training jackpot inside.
Olive is not what you're inferring. Don't go there. These are ministers now. You don't expect them to jackpot. Lagos is a state. This is federal.
I'm not inferring. But what we're saying, what I was trying to drive at was that when we were analyzing that story, what we said was that, was it really necessary? I remember you saying they should use that funds to fix the street lights, and that we can have Zoom. The world is a global village. A number of these things can be done from a local standpoint.
Also looking at the present economic realities of the ordinary Nigerian. Nigerians are angry, they are hungry. There's a cost of living crisis. And when you talk about reading the room, read the room.
Exactly.
This is very insensitive at this point in time to think you have to take your ministerial
if you now decide tomorrow that you want to travel to London, nobody has a problem with you. It is the money that you work for. You are a regular citizen. But I don't know if government officials don't realize that regardless of whether you think, oh, it's my salary and my remuneration I'm using to do this thing, you are a public figure. And so the picture that is being painted as a public figure is a picture that is very important. And when there are economic challenges within the country, and you're going abroad to have a conference to review,
it's not absolutely necessary.
To review the administration of the current president, it tells the populace that you're disconnected from their reality. that even when you say that they should cut down spending and you're talking about everybody fastening their seatbelts, you're not planning to do the same.
And we're in the middle of serious crisis, security, economic cost of living crisis. Maybe from the World Bank optics and GDP figures, the economy grew by a bit last year. Is that why it's not yet Uhuru? We're not yet at the promised land. If we want to write out the list of challenges that we're facing, it's a lot. So this is not the time to even celebrate your achievements. Fine, the ministers went, they were in Abuja at the National Press Center. They gave out their score sheets. Journalists took notes. We know what they've done. Kudos, fantastic. You've done a good job. It's the jury should be for Nigerians. Nigerians should decide, not you. Okay, you did well amongst yourself. Now you want to travel and clap for yourself and, big up your egos and say, well, we're doing very well.
Yeah, I don't want to believe that this thing, I want to believe that there's something that we're misunderstanding here, that this isn't the
I've looked at all the angle. I didn't see anything, no.
I want to believe that I want to believe that we're misunderstanding something here. But then again, just to reiterate, that nobody's saying that they can't go on holiday. The president himself has come under backlash for the number of foreign trips he's made, not because people don't think he can afford it, but because when you are a public official serving as a public official during the duration of your service, you must be careful of your body language. You must be careful of not conveying the wrong message.
And they've asked ordinary Nigerians to tighten their belts and be prudent in their spending. Somebody even said, "Monsieur, eat spaghetti. Are you Italian?"
I remember that man with that very famous picture on
He's now very, very
so if our administration is one that tells us to tighten and fasten our, tighten our belts, we should be seeing that leadership is from the top to the bottom.
Lead by example.
Exactly. So these are and when people come hard on the administration, it's not because they're looking for things to criticize. It's because you can't do something that is completely different from what you're saying. There has to be a correlation of some sort. Just last week, we're talking about the Buy Niger policy, where they're saying Nigerian first. You're using Nigerian talent, and even if we have to import, we're ensuring that there's a clause in the contract that ensures that the technology is retained here in Nigeria, transferred to Nigeria. So we want to see that as well. Government officials need to start thinking about creative ways to have their meetings in Abuja. You mentioned the Kogosi Warm Springs, Kajuru Castle, go to some of the tourist centers in Nigeria and have their meetings there.
Beach. Say they can't go to
Oniru Beach. Have their reviews there.
Oniru Beach. I need to update you. There's no more.
There's no more. Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
Destroyed it with landmark. Coastal Road. And this is also demarcating Nigeria, because you think, London is the best place to do it. And if Mr. Peter Obi talks now, they say it's demarcating Nigeria. The government is demarcating Nigeria by trying to take this ministerial retreat or whatever they're doing in assessing themselves. The assessment should be by Nigerians to London. Why London? I mean, that's the biggest. That's the biggest indictment you could do to yourself. Why do you have to take this to a foreign land, not even an African country? We're not even showing African solidarity. It's London, it's Paris. Wow. Well, we deserve better.
We certainly hope for better, and we hope that this is a conversation that we don't need to constantly talk about every, now and then. The options, again, like we did mention, would be that they should ensure that they have their meetings in the country. But let's take a few reactions from social media, see what Nigerians are saying about this. Nedoani says, Tinubu's cabinet members are heading to London for an international press conference to speak on their achievements since 2023. 1, they can't hold the press conference in Abuja or Lagos because NEPA will take the light. 2, to avoid mosquito biting international correspondents,
don't want to have malaria.
To London. 3, to avoid purported Boko Haram embarrassment, London is a better alternative. 4, fuel is so expensive in Nigeria, and to make sure nothing stops dignitaries and respondents from attending the briefing, London is cheaper. 5, press members wouldn't like to experience police brutality anywhere in Nigeria, so London is a better alternative because of zero police brutality. 6, Nigerians can watch the briefing on NTA. When we need nuclear scientists for a simple experiment, there will be nowhere to be found. Science students that can't save Nigeria from the comfort of their home. Sophia Kwa. Oh yeah, who has video of that? No, please. Can we move on to the next tweet if we have another? Several ministers.
The famous Osarige.
Several ministers in President Bola Tinubu's administration, including FCT Minister Nyesom Wike and Works Minister Dave Umahi, are set to travel to London for an international press conference aimed at highlighting the administration achievements. Now, this is the highlight because it's not too wild.
I'm telling you.
Love it. Replying to Osarige, Uchenna Ikechukwu says, what achievements? Nigerians are literally dying of hunger. Families can't eat a square meal a day. Patients can't afford basic medications. Food inflation is over 300% from when Tinubu took over power in 2023. What exactly are their achievements? Governance is about improving the lives of your citizens. Anything short of that is deceit and propaganda.
No, but honestly, is it that the guys in government don't... Okay, I've never seen or heard this kind of finish, but it's on record what a thriving country with its economy that was taken by thieves, and in about 10 years, everything was gone, including shame. I mean, it's really sad. The 2-year achievements of Tinubu shall be broadcast from Lancaster House, London, where our founding fathers and mothers negotiated, gathered 6-7 years ago to negotiate
new independence. Interesting. I mean, these are some of the reactions that Nigerians are having to those who have tweeted about it and put up their thoughts about it.
But seriously, our government officials need to be more sensitive.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was an advisor to one of them and this came up, the optics are bad. The people are not in the mood for all of this, and you're doing it. It's a slap on the face of Nigerians.
As
There's
for me,
nothing short of it.
I'm hoping that this will inspire management to send us to London to broadcast Breakfast Central live
from Lancaster House, where mosquito will not bite our correspondents.
And where NEPA will not take the lives.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. Anyway, that would be all that we have this morning on Wake Up Conversation.
Olive, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. They will not send you to Lancaster House.
Where would they send me to?
They will send Umaru Kirawa. The north is closer to London. You know, if you're flying to London, you have to go through north. So Umaru Kirawa would be going to Lancaster House. I'm sorry.
Then what will happen to Afia Hagan, our international correspondent?
Go to Rome to cover the Pope's the Pope's Mass on Sunday. Yes.
Oh my goodness. But let us know what your thoughts are. What we're seeing is majority of the Nigerians disapproving, criticizing the administration for that potential or purported move to go to London to review President Bola Ahmed's administration since 2023. Are there maybe any positive sides to this argument that you can think of? Let us know. Tweet at us individually or at News Central TV to let us know your thoughts. And maybe before the end of the show, we'll take some of your reactions. But now let's share with you what our top stories are this morning on Breakfast Central. This morning on Breakfast Central, we'll be looking at a bill to mandate voting, as this bill has killed second reading in the House of Reps, meaning that you must vote by fire or by force.
Or you go to jail.
The Reps probe JAMB over 2025 UTME, technical glitch and mass failure. President Tinubu okays deployment of armed forest guards. And looking away from insecurity, Senate passes bill to establish National Agency for Malaria Eradication. We'll look at the front pages of the paper and bring you the stories there this morning. Join us for all these and more. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. The Nigerian Senate has passed for the second reading a bill seeking to establish National Agency for Malaria Eradication. The proposed agency is expected to coordinate nationwide efforts aimed at eradicating malaria and improving public health. The Senate also considered a bill seeking to mandate ministries, departments, and agencies of government to prioritize locally manufactured automobiles in their procurement processes. News Central's National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, brings more details in this report.
Its mandate will be clear and aggressive. Formulate and champion national policies for malaria eradication, coordinate inter-agency and sectoral responses with authority, mobilize and manage resources efficiently and transparently.
Lawmakers who supported the bill referenced the impact of malaria on children and pregnant women in the country, welcoming it as a strategic effort to combat the deadly disease.
This bill will focus our attention on eradicating malaria, or at least in the first instance, reducing the impact in terms of death and in terms of sickness amongst the Nigerian people.
The time has come for us to look critically at this. The lives of Nigerians and the devastating effect of malaria is beyond comprehension.
With the bill now passed for second reading, it moves to the Senate Health Committee for further legislative work. The Senate also considered the Local Automotive Industry Patronage Bill 2025, seeking to mandate government institutions to prioritize locally manufactured automobiles during procurement. The bill, sponsored by Patrick Ndubweze, representing Imo North Senatorial District, faults Nigeria's overdependence on imported vehicles and goods.
It is important that goods and services are produced locally, as its ripple effect is a reduction in imports and a rise in exports. That's balance of trade.
What this bill seeks to do is essentially to give legal truth to the resolution of the Federal Executive Council, so that the resolution of the Federal Executive Council is done through an executive fiat.
Patronize made in Nigeria vehicles. There are assembly plants and there are manufacture of vehicles in this country. So if we are able to patronize them, of course, it will help our economy, because more jobs will be created. We wouldn't be spending our money to import cars overseas.
Lawmakers believe that once passed, the legislation will boost the local automobile industry, enhancing economic growth and promoting competitiveness among Nigerian manufacturers. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Right, thank you very much, Sagir Ibrahim, for bringing us a very detailed report. It would interest you that even in 2025, we're still having conversations about malaria.
That's not even the biggest issue for me. If there's a country that needs that Elon Musk Department of Government Efficiency, it has to be Nigeria. We are so good at at replicating duties and creating
multiple agencies and committees for the same thing.
What do you mean by department? You want to create a ministry for malaria? They need to really enforce the Onosore report, and it's there. People are. You look at our budget, the amount that goes to recurrent expenditure is quite a huge percentage. How much will be left for capital projects and development if we're going to use all the money and taxes we earn to pay salaries? It's ridiculous. I'm sure the Ministry of Health has a malaria department. They should strengthen it and give them what they need. We don't need to create another ministry.
Because what is then
Ministry for the Eradication of Malaria.
National Agency for Malaria Eradication. So every single, that's not to downplay the importance of the fight against malaria. Really we've been fighting it, we can continue to fight it. But then, like Benga has said, there's already a Ministry of Health. And, there's much that can be done so far with sensitization and ensuring that we consolidate the moves and the steps that have already been made, the progress that has been made, rather than creating another avenue for more money to go.
Sagir also touched on the national, a bill mandating the local
auto industry.
Mandating government ministries to purchase, during procurement, to buy made in Nigeria cars first. I'm not going to get excited because it's always nice to say things, but it's enforcement and implementation. Was it not the same government that said we should patronize made in Nigeria is going to London for a scorecard?
Exactly.
So seeing is believing. Action speaks louder than
words. Whilst, they can say a lot of fanciful and flowery things, it's important what their actions say. And the more they continue to say things that they're not yet taking actionable steps on, the higher the disparity between where we are and what the expectations or what Nigerians expect. Again, it will continue to bridge, it will continue to widen the trust deficit. So kudos to them on their move. We're not very much in support of the Malaria Eradication Agency. However, the local automobile purchases should be encouraged. And like we say, examples should start from the top to the bottom. Let's start to see government officials, in fact, the president, the governor, every single person. We should see that their whole convoy, there is no foreign car. It should be innocent and all the Nigerian brands. And then we can now start to enforce that here in Nigeria. But we're going to break now. When we come back, we'll have a guest joining us for our first top story this morning. Stay with us.
of Representatives has decided to investigate the technical error that led to the mass failure in the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation examination. Recall that JAMB admitted to a major technical error during its 2025 UTME. As
we recall, of course, the JAMB admitted to a major technical error. Now, this admission follows public outcry over mass failure in the exam, with over 78% of candidates scoring less than 200 points out of the maximum 400 points. However, according to findings by DEV reporting, the number of candidates sitting for the UTME has continued to grow over the years, but results show that more candidates have scored below 200 in the last 5 years. What do these reports tell us? We'll find out in a moment.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has called for the establishment of at least one computer-based testing center in each of the 774 local government areas of the country for the UTME to mitigate future reoccurrence of glitches. Join us to discuss this on Breakfast Central is the team lead at DEV Reporting, Mojid Alabi. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Alabi.
Thank you so much for having me.
First and foremost, I understand the organization carried out some investigation and research. What are your findings?
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, we were surprised that the cry, the public outcry this year went somehow, and we realized that this is not strange, this is not new, it's just like a tip of the iceberg that we brought out. We just wanted people to realize that the cry is not unreasonable, but at the same time you have to realize that it didn't just start yesterday. The low pass rate, maybe, yeah, probably if we had checked before now, there could have been some kind of similar glitches, but the pattern had been similar. People scoring below 200 had always been far above 60%, 70%. So what is strange this time is because maybe people who had expected to score over 200, close to 300, found out that they scored far below what they expected. And people could at least vouch for them. We know children of professors who even performed very highly in their this mock JAMB, mock UTME, but they found out that at the end of the day they scored just 140, 150. And I think that's actually aroused the interest of everyone to want to cry out. But before now, the pattern had always been the same. Though we had more candidates in 2025, 2024, we had similar growth in number of people sitting exams, but at the same time, we realized that the pattern of pass rate has always been similar. Nothing serious about that. It has been very low. And beyond glitches, the reasons are always there. Probably we'll go to that later.
All right. So, which is, you know, what leads me to our next question. Now they've admitted to certain errors. JAMB has taken responsibility for the mass failure rate this year, stating that almost 400,000 students were affected due to the error on their part and with their systems. Is this something that is happening for the first time? Because the previous, you're saying that in the past 5 years, we've had similar failure rates. Is it again, from your investigation or from what you can gather, would you say that it's similar reasons, or is there a different reason why it happened in the same way in the previous years?
Yeah, there have been so many reasons ascribed to poor performance of candidates in the examination. And let me say that we must commend JAMB for admitting its error. JAMB is run by human beings, it's not by spirits. And for someone, it is something that is very rare in our system, especially public system, for public officials to come up and say, yes, we agree. The kind of the system put in place by JAMB, it's commendable, because when you look at the kind of layers, the involvement of different people. In fact, the conduct of exams for PWDs and things like visually impaired, they paid for their forms, bring them to a particular center, feed them, and camp them for about 2 days. And not just that, they will still ensure that they gain admission. That's excellent. But because it is run by human beings, if you could recollect, is it the days of Agor in the US? You will see ballot papers of certain places in another state. So it is a human error, and it is accepted. And we understand that this organization has come up with.
But you're also dealing with lives of people here.
Yeah.
If a pilot if you're on a plane, you don't expect human error to happen because the result is fatal. And this also affects the lives of human beings, so we can't excuse it.
No, we agree. But any system that is run by human being is would definitely have one challenge or the other. So for them to have accepted that this is an error from us is also something that is commendable. But I must also add that beyond just the glitches, you will have seen over time, when you look at the conditions of writing these exams, you look at the CBT system, how much are our candidates in tune to the CBT system.
How computer literate are they?
So when you look at the computer literacy level, how are they? And you look at, go to the interiors, and I'm surprised that people are traveling to places, people who start UTME in 1990 to 2000, they have to go to places to go and sit their exams. But what time do they start exams? Nobody starts exams by 6:30 a.m. You don't ask children of 16, 15, 17 to come out as early as 6:30 a.m.
Even in the 1990s, they didn't.
No, they didn't. So we have to travel. Normally, people will have to travel distances to go and sit exam because UTME is not conducted in every community. But what we are saying is that technology must have helped us to be able to at least overcome some of these few challenges. If you look at the institutions, you know, JAMB just became a kind of an organization that is probably, I would say, over-empowered. Admission in this, if you look at the system of running tertiary institutions, especially the universities, admissions is a business, admission conduct of the admission is a business of the University Senate. It is a business of the University Senate. But because the universities too have gone overboard, some of them, they no longer recognize merit. It degenerated to a stage where merit was relegated to the background.
To pay.
Yeah.
Then you get admission.
So when you look at what has now happened over time, we have seen that JAMB, to be fair, the universities, you could recollect that there was introduction of post-UTME when the institutions didn't believe that the result being paraded by JAMB was good enough. But when this man came, when Professor Oloride came, sanity was introduced to a high level. And consistently in the last 5-6 years, the institutions have realized that the result presented by candidates is consistent with what the candidates also get from their post-UTME. So meaning that those who are bringing 300, 400, 350, 320 before, they could not defend it before. But in the last 5-6 years, and that is why some institutions no longer conduct post-UTME. If you go to LASU, no post-UTME. If you go to LASU Step, no post-UTME. Many institutions like that is because of the trust that they now have, because they have seen it consistently. But because there have always also been glitches. Every year you record glitches. Every year exams are rescheduled for candidates. But if you are conducting exams for almost 2 million candidates, you will not expect that all the 2 million will have, but there are some, you know, this is deep-rooted. The challenges are always there. Go and check the candidates themselves. Many people didn't even know they're going to write the exam. I have candidates that they reported to me who even missed their exam. Why did they miss their exam? It's not because it is far or whatever. It's because they even forgot they had exams. And these are people who, the people to sponsor them, they are already there. The sponsors have to reach out to me and say, look, this person missed his exam. So what do you want us to do? Because they forgot.
They want to go into music industry.
Okay, but I mean, coming back to JAMB and JAMB taking responsibility, Nigerians don't seem to think that this is responsibility enough, and I'll tell you why. You talked about students who forgot about their JAMB exams. However, there were reports of students who allegedly did not write the exam, but were even given a score. That's how bad this particular year was. And now there's also the report of the possibility of, we don't know how many people, but for now the only report we have is of a 19-year-old girl who lost her life as a result of this. So are we saying that the fact that JAMB has come out to own up and say, oh, we are sorry, and the registrar broke down in tears, are you saying that so far, I mean, that's enough? Nigerians, because what we're seeing is the response from Nigerians. They're asking that he step aside. They're asking for a social media handler to step aside. They're saying the person is insensitive, and the way the wording of the message was, framed, man proposes, God disposes. So it seemed, because if you follow the trajectory of this announcement, there was a pushback from JAMB. It did seem that people did not know what they were saying. It felt like JAMB was being defensive. So in essence, I say all of this to ask, do you think that the manner in which JAMB has taken accountability is accountability enough, and that should suffice?
I'm not here to defend Professor Loyede or to defend JAMB. I'm here to also let us know that the education crisis that we have in Nigeria, I don't just take one incident. It will take, if somebody has offended me, I will look back and see, has this person done me good in the past? There's nobody without its own deficiency. We all have our own issues. But when you look at what has this person done within the last 7 or 8 years that he has been in the saddle, you have to realize the fact that there is a whole lot of change in the system. Before now, you could score 300 and not gain admission to institutions. Today, there's something they call Central Admission Processing System, which is CAPS. CAPS will reveal to you what this person scored. Before, institutions were doing what they liked. They could give you admission, they could not give you admission. They have a lot of lists that they put. You have VC's list, you have discretionary list, you have... So, until the man came up and said, look, I've been Vice Chancellor, I've been Secretary of Association of Vice Chancellors, I've held different positions. So he understands how these things run. And today, you could see, if somebody scores this, immediately you are going to see the score and you are going to see where this person belongs. You know, JAMB is not, UTME is not an achievement test. Yeah. It's a ranking test. And it allows you to be able to rank candidates based on their scores. So what I'm saying in essence is that if there is an error, could we also look back and see the kind of the progress we have recorded over the years? Before now, you see a lot of, they call themselves tutorial centers. They form cabals, and we call them miracle centers. These were centers who were controlling, and you will see somebody who never prepared, and they will get exam script. Nobody can tell you that he saw, in the last 2-3 years, nobody will tell you that they saw JAMB questions before the exam. That was very, very fundamental. And so all these things, you can't be 100% perfect. I'm not here to defend JAMB, but what I'm saying in essence is that errors will
look at his antecedents, right?
Yeah. So you have to
considering his antecedents, yes. Critics of Professor Oloyede would also tell you that it was under his administration, his leadership of JAMB, that it was alleged that a snake swallowed money. Okay. And it was also under his leadership that JAMB became a revenue generating institution, selling recharge card, declaring that they made X amount of billions in a year, which is not their primary mandate.
Oh no, that is why we are here as journalists. We are to enlighten the public.
How do you respond to
that? Yeah, we are to enlighten the public. I think these are things that require commendation and not condemnation. I'm going to tell you about snake swallowing money. It is based on his own investigations. When he came in, rot in the system, go and check his predecessor. His predecessor is still facing EFCC up to now, Professor Dibo Ojerinde. He holds so many facilities, and when he came on board, he realized that they were selling scratch cards and they were not accountable to the system. JAMB had been making money all along. There was no year JAMB never made money, but what this person was able to put in place was to be able to say, let there be accountability. And it was very surprising. When investigation started, it was in Benue that they realized that one of the officers who was meant to account for the money they collected, they account, and what was the reason? They said snake came to swallow money. So instead of us to commend him, we thought because the head who actually investigated and allowed the process to follow due system, then we said we should probe him. When you look at the kind of the system that has been put in place, they say under him, he's been remitting money. When you make resources, for the first time under his watch, like I said, I'm not here to defend him, but under his watch, the money they were paying for UTME was reduced when they realized that we were making more money. No, we can't be charging as high as this. And what was the next recommendation they made? They recommended to the federal government and said, we need to reduce how much we charge per this exam. Because when we are accountable, I don't like this messianic approach to things, because when you keep praising people, it enters their head. And maybe that was why Prof was insisting that there was no error, there is no this, there is no that. At a stage, he's coming on board to JAMB, sanitize JAMB as a body. Right. And we must commend him for that. If there is an error, we must take that error as an exception and we must treat it the way it should. If people say, if the system says, no, because of this mistake, we should remove you, I don't have any problem with that. But what I'm saying is that based on what we have seen, I've been covering JAMB, I'm the chairman of Education Writers Association of Nigeria. I've been covering education sector for over a decade. And I understand what every single sector, what they have been doing. I know the corruption in the system. I've tried to even look at, between 2011 and 2015, we conducted findings about all these examinations. I was one of the few who came out to challenge them when they started saying people will not wear wristband, we are going to do this. And I told them, all these efforts to curb malpractices, they are excellent, but they are not the best. But what is the best? The best is until we change our reward system, and until, I've said it times without number here, until we change our reward system and we value merit over certificate. It is the rush for everybody to go to university. It's because of the reward, it's because of our belief in certificate. Many university students are meant to be learning trade. People believe that if you learn trade, if you learn vocations, whatever, that you are not good. Yeah. That is not what operates in other clients. In other clients, whatever you do, you are respected and you earn your reward.
JAMB has said this over 300,000 students, mostly in Lagos.
Almost 400,000.
Almost 400,000 would have an opportunity to resit the exams, starting from this.
Today.
16.
15, 16.
From today?
16, I believe. 16. Is it not too short a time from the last time they wrote the exams? And also, what's the guarantee that JAMB is adequately prepared so that we won't have these glitches repeat itself?
If you have monitored JAMB over time, the way some of us have done, number one, I wouldn't speak about the timing. Psychologists may have to react and say, look, this person who cried 3-4 days ago may not be in the right frame of mind to sit exam within the short period of time. Number two is the fact that maybe some of them have even traveled out after the exam. How are they going to come back and be able to sit this exam again? WAEC is also ongoing. The admission is not going to end tomorrow. Admission into tertiary institution may not start until around September, October. I would have expected JAMB to relax and allow WAEC is conducting its own SSCE. So they even have a break today. So some of them may be having some kind of clashes. NECO will start its own exam, which will run for like about 8 weeks or thereabouts. We will have allowed all this to go down, allow the candidate to be rest assured that they are going to rewrite their exams and they can prepare fully. This rush, I may not like it, because when you look at the conditions, somebody who cried, who wept, or somebody who psychologically are they balanced? I'm not a psychologist, but when you look at it, we can review it and say, look, it is not ideal for us to rush them. But when you look at the preparedness of JAMB, if you look at the excuse given, there is a pattern. It started on the I think on Tuesday. It was just the first 3 days or thereabouts. And immediately they realized it. They realized that, oh, there must be a kind of a solution. The other, when JAMB explained it, we have lag and we have card. In terms of the category of how they run their vehicles to convey the examination script. But question. So what they realized is that one effected the corrections properly. The other one did not effect the corrections properly. There is no excuse. So if within the period you have seen and you see the kind of the people who actually went to observe, we had the likes of Chidoka, former minister, people who believe that, oh, we have been part and parcel of this, we should be able to know. So they all saw it, it was open, and that was why they decided that only 379,000 plus candidates should benefit from the receipt. But at the same time, why do we need to rush it? We should have calmed down, calm all the nerves, fix them at appropriate time so that there won't even be clash with other examinations. Those are the things that I also see in this.
Okay, let's go back to this report that your organization has found. And I'm also looking at the Punch newspaper. The Punch had published a report titled "Concerns Rise Over Teaching" as over 9 million fail UTME in 7 years. And then they said the report revealed that the average failure rate for the UTME conducted by the Joint Admissions Matriculation Board over 7 years stood at 78.29%. Out of 11.9 million candidates who took the UTME, between 2018 and 2024, about 9.17 million candidates scored below 200, the pass mark, which is frightening. What would you say are some of the factors that have contributed to this constant repeated failure rates?
Okay. Yeah, one thing is very simple. What is simple is that, are we taking UTME as an exception? Can we compare UTME and other exams that we have in Nigeria? We have WAEC, we have NECO, we have NAPTEP, the same rate pattern, the same, and WAEC is not CBT based. You are going to see the performance. You can tell, you know, unlike in those days, we seem to see technology as something that should improve our reading culture. But it is the other way around. How do we use it? You are going to look at what has been the performance, what has been the investment of even the government on the education. It is not unlike those days. Go to classrooms these days. You see a lot of, maybe because our concentration has been on the cities. Go to the interior. You see a lot of challenges that are there. Today, by 2024 statistics produced by the Nigerian government, Nigeria needs about 200,000 teachers to have, to at least the gap. 200,000 teachers are needed to be able to fill the teaching gap in Nigeria. Where are they? The bulk of education is supplied is by private institutions. Go and check those who perform excellently.
You were going to drive us something, talking about the interior.
Yeah.
But beyond the teachers' numbers, or what other issues are they facing?
Oh, you talk about technology. When former Governor Rauf Aregbesola introduced Okoimo in Osun, some of us campaigned against it because we saw it as a misplaced priority. Why? Because we knew what the level of the teachers were at the time. Many of them could not even handle the tabs. Where were they going to be charging the tabs? You had schools without solar panels, you had schools without power, you had schools without laboratory, you had schools without enough teachers, you have a Yoruba teacher teaching science subjects. So you are going to first of all address all this. Wow. If you didn't address, but because he was also ambitious, because you travel and you say, these are small kids who can do this, why can't we import and try to do this in our own state? So copy and paste. Rather than fixing what was necessary. At a time, the governor was focusing on mixing schools, changing their uniforms, doing all manner of things. But we said it. I told them at that time, we had a lot of opportunities to discuss that, look, we have misplaced priority. For years, because when the military took over, you will realize that between 1960 something to 1999, we had military in place. They created a lot of vacuum. Investment in education went down completely. Teacher education was no longer something that is very worthy. Then, because of that reward system that changed, then you had what was called, that was in the 80s, that was when early 90s, that was when 419 was introduced. And you had people who were making money without working for it. And that really affected the psychology of everyone. So by the time democracy also came, politics became so lucrative that a lot of people are not interested in education. And teaching, which used to be noble profession, went to the background. And I've said it, you had the time in the past when teachers were the models in the society. Until that time, today, 70% of teachers are passers-by. They have it as alternative jobs. It is not their primary thing. It is not something that comes from them. It is because, let me just do this. But then when you look at the schools, they are mushroom schools. These are schools who were transformed from being daycare centers then to becoming
but we have regulators. There's UBEC, there's the Ministry of Education that registers all these schools. So don't we have standardization?
What is the compliance level? It is only in the cities. Most of the schools that you see outside, and I'm going to tell you, that is the challenge of the investment in the education sector. Nigerians wanted schools near their houses. If you are a parent, you want to get out of your house, enroll your child, so that when you come back, is either the child could easily walk down to the home. Go and check the neighborhood. How many schools are available? Basic schools, they are not available. And if they are not available, you have to allow mushrooms to take over. And that's why you have those that we even categorize as low-cost schools, where people have to pay like 15 naira per day to be able to go to school. It is because there is no government-funded public schools that could allow children to take the best of
If
education.
we even look at UNESCO's recommendation for, what our budgetary allocation to education should be, we're a far cry from this. I think we need to wrap up. But on a final note, the House of Rep is investigating this matter. They've made reference to Professor Bishak Oloyede's, his time in as a registrar so far, how he's functioned with integrity, ensuring that there's been funds recovered back to the federal coffers. But they're making a suggestion now. We're seeing the suggestion that they should have one computer-based testing center in every local government. So that's about 774 CBT centers. Do you first of all agree with this suggestion, and how well do you think this will be helpful in curbing this glitch that we've experienced in this current situation?
It's not just about starting building computer CBT centers. There's no local government in Nigeria today that doesn't have a CBT center. It could be privately owned, and that is why JAMB has been advocating that there should be mega centers. And I think some states are even giving them parcels of land, and people are coming together to build a center that can accommodate about 10,000 candidates at a go. Yes, it is good if government has its own centers that can control. It is good if you have it across the 774 local governments of the Federation. Excellent. But what we are saying is that these places are still going to be manned by individuals. Corruption is our major challenge, and that is what we are faced. Maintenance culture is a major challenge. You will see that we have institutions in Nigeria that I know of that you have the maintenance officials to go and change AC. Rather than recommending and fixing it, they remove it. They take it to their home and they say, that thing is spoiled. And I know of a CEO who is suffering, a provost of a college, who is suffering the challenge of fighting them against doing that until they ensure that it was removed. So until we are able to address the corruption in the system, what the man is also facing is also a challenge of fighting very seriously. I know of a lot of individuals who are not happy.
So, it's a multifaceted fight in 10 seconds. So do you now think we should, since we don't have enough technology or enough access to technology now to help, do you think we should augment it with the manual? So maybe revert to technology where it is abundant, and in other cases people can revert to the paper and pen method.
Yeah, CBT exams, it is easier for UTME to be conducted through UTB. The one that I'm going to really campaign that I won't support is the idea of saying WAEC, which has theories, which has practicals, should now move to CBT.
Which was another conversation that came up recently.
Yeah, another conversation, because the minister said it. The minister is coming from America. And he's into health sector. He's a medical doctor. He really doesn't. I'm not sure he really understands what it takes, especially when you go to the interior in this country.
But do you think that we should combine for JAMB? Because right now,
CBT is excellent, and I'm going to say it. Okay. Because Nigerian students are not going to be students for Nigeria alone. We have to think of what the global perspective. When they finish UTME, they are still going to have other examinations with international organizations. So you cannot allow your students who are already close to 16, 17 not to be able to compete.
So I think maybe now our goal should now to look out for the other underserved system that we have, and ensure that they understand, because it will not be equitable to see that people are not taught with access to computers and technology, and then they are using technology to assess them. That's far from equitable. Thank you so much, Mujid, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. It's been a delight to have a conversation with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Now let's share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. The proposed law that will make voting mandatory for all eligible citizens has now passed second reading in the House of Reps. The bill proposes imposing a maximum of 6 months imprisonment or a fine of no more than 100,000 naira for Nigerians of voting age who failed to vote during the elections.
During the debate in the House, Speaker of the House, Abbas Tajuddin, emphasized that the bill will deepen Nigeria's democratic processes by compelling citizens to participate in choosing their leaders. He added that the legislation, if passed, would improve provisions for voter education, easy access to polling units, and clear guidelines for enforcement. Join us to react to this move by the House of Representatives is Advocacy Officer, West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, Austin Ayagbe. But before we speak to our guests, let's take a listen.
The rationale for this bill rests on the urgent need to revitalize the participation in Nigeria. The persistent trend of low turnout undermines the legitimacy of our electoral process and weakens the foundations of representative governance.
Personally, in Australia, it is actually an offense for you not to vote during elections. And the tax office will visit you and find out why you did not vote. And there are some incentives as a citizen that you'll be denied because you refuse to fulfill your responsibility. What are those things that citizens even enjoy? Is it that you'll be denied security? There is no water anywhere. As you say, you'll be denied your basic utilities. What exactly will be denied any man who has refused to vote in Nigeria? I don't think there's anything that can be denied any man that has refused to vote. While we are making a law to make voting compulsory, we should also make a law that will make the votes of citizens count. The last election, Mr. Speaker, we can all say without shying from the truth, INEC chairman and all the INEC officers went around the country carrying out campaigns that their vote will count, giving all sorts of promises, and at the end, we saw something else.
Those against you say nay. The ayes have it. This bill is referred to the Committee on Electoral Matters for further legislative action.
Join us this morning to react to this move by the House of Representatives is Advocacy Officer, West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, Austin Aigbe. One welcome to you, Mr. Aigbe, and thanks for joining us from Breakfast Central. You belong...
Thank you very much. It's indeed an honor.
You belong to a civil society organization that advocates for the strengthening of democracy. Is this the right move to strengthen democracy in Nigeria by making it compulsory for Nigerians that are eligible to vote? Otherwise, there will be consequences, 100,000 naira fine or jail term.
I'm sure that while you are reading that or listening to the debate at the House of Representatives, you will be smiling and just imagining what kind of proposal is.
Oh, you should love it. You're advocate for democracy. They're making your work easier.
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm saying that I'm sure you would have been laughing profusely when you were listening to that proposal. The truth of the matter is that let me quickly hang on the Australian model that the Honorable mentioned. Till today, Australia does not have 100% turnout of voters. It's still about 75% of turnout of voters, because about age 70 and above, it is not compulsory for them to vote. This proposal for compulsory voting in Australia was introduced in 1912. It is important to state that in 1912. But those who want to counter, my argument will say it doesn't matter when Nigeria will start it, which is okay and fantastic. But beyond that, the kind of governance system that Australia practiced, the way in which every Australian is known in a system, the way in which democracy has a level of integrity. I mean, election in Australia is free and fair. No violence, no political manipulation, no elected official defection. There is no defection in Australia. I'm wondering why we use Australia as a model. I would think that a close country like Egypt could have been used, because Egypt also has compulsory voting. But in all honesty, is Nigeria right for compulsory voting? And maybe yes, maybe no. But let's look at the indices. Our electoral register is not yet cleaned up. Those who have died, those who have relocated, those who have jackpot are still on that electoral register. Are you going to punish them because they live abroad now? or are you going to engage in diaspora voting to make it compulsory? If one citizen live in a country where we may not be able to engage in diaspora voting, are you going to penalize them? There are a number of things. We don't even know the number of people in this country. And let alone how many people have left the country. I mean, those who have died, I say those who have died. Even in Australia, when you live 500 kilometers away from your voting location on election day, it is not compulsory. In Australia, when you are sick or unable to move, maybe with disability or thereabout, you are not under that compulsion to vote. So when you make a blanket statement that you want to engage in electoral voting, in any case, in Australia, compulsory voting is enforced. There are other countries like Chile, Bolivia, Brazil, that cannot have a quasi-enforcement of those regulations. But the example, the reason I'm using Australia is because the honorable member actually used Australia as the example. And I say, whereas in Australia, like he said, compulsory voting pick up turnout of voters. But why we should interrogate in Nigeria, why is voting low consistently since 1999, particularly after 2023 election, turnout of voters continue to nosedive. Why? People should interrogate. In 2007, there was massive violence. In 2023, like the second honorable member said, that the expectation of Nigerians dashed. The hopes were high. Suddenly, there was an introduction of glitches. And the next thing we had was that you go to court if you do not accept the result. So somebody will also go to court to say that I don't want to vote. In fact, voting should be a right. And there are fundamental principles of the protection of rights. A voter may decide not to vote based on religious obligation. On Saturday, there are people who go for their religious obligation. They have their services or whatever on that Saturday that will fix on election day. Are you going to bring the ballot paper to their service center? There are a lot of complications. Okay. Let's not go into things that will jeopardize or begin to question the very essence of our legislative functions. All right. There are things to be done rather than compulsory voting. There's a lot to do.
Before we come to the things that need to be done rather than compulsory voting, is your argument against this bill based on the fact that it's impracticable, or is it that it's undemocratic in, looking at it in compliance with the provisions of the Constitution? So is your argument that it is impracticable, or that it is undemocratic, or is your argument that it is both?
Or misplaced?
It is actually both, or added to the third, misplaced. Yes. Right now, what is democracy? Democracy is the people have their way, the minority have their say, which means they will continue to be minority. That's on democratic side. Feasibility is the things I talked about. Nigeria currently don't enjoy democracy. They don't enjoy the dividends of democracy. People who voted in 2023 that those elections were suppressed, that never counted to the turnout of voters. You expect them to vote, you need to find a way. So you want to then coerce them to vote. Those who were under duress not to come out to the education in Lagos, how are you going to do it? You want to coerce them, then they go out in the process. So where is the system? The reason why many people are not even voting, it's not that they don't like to vote. One, they've been unable to collect their PVCs. And thank God that any proposal will remove the use of the compulsory use of the printed PVC, which we talked about in the last conversation we had. That will solve the issue of inability to acquire, secure your PVC. That may or is already a proposal that will increase in 2027. And I can tell you for sure, many people who are putting up the PVC can actually now go print and show up. That's one. Then two is a fear of violence. Look at another state. In the last election, 10% of voters turned out to vote to make a governor of a state.
Wow.
10%. In Nigeria, 28% made the Nigerian president. 2027, it may be worse, but however, with certain innovation in the reform, we are hoping, and beyond just the PVC, is to strengthen the way INEC officials are appointed, or not recruited. There's a trust deficit. That imagine the recent confirmation of some INEC official. Go and look at their bio. Some worked for INEC before, and one of them was actually in charge of logistics. Becoming an INEC chair, it sends a wrong signal to the polity. Aside that, is the way results are computed. Our collation system in Nigeria is almost like a game changer in an election. What am I saying? There are human errors in the computation. That is why you see, even in the 2019 election, the total number of registered voters that was declared by INEC did not agree with the total number of registered voters announced by the same INEC in the course of reading out the turnout of voter registration and all of that. So what am I saying? We have deficiency in our data system, and that is why part of what the House of Reps should be doing is to strengthen this electoral architecture, this mechanism. One, build trust in the system. Two, enhance the credibility process. In fact, when the process is credible and has integrity, trust will be enhanced. Then introduce innovation that enhances that trust. Electronic voting with a paper trail will answer that cure. So people believe that whatever they voted at the polling unit is uploaded immediately. And when that is done, they're able to verify. Not that you voted in the polling unit, by the time you see the results online, they say it was cancelled. It was cancelled because the figures from ECAT did not agree. The ballot paper issued, the ballot paper used, did not agree with the talking about vote count. And if there are just such kind of occasion, the returning officer can actually declare that result sheet null and void, and it never moved to the next level. So we should deal with those operational errors and build trust. Gradually will increase the voter turnout. So
if we take all these measures that you've suggested and all these measures are put in place, will there ever be a situation where mandatory voting will be acceptable in Nigeria?
I can't hear you.
I was asking all the suggestions that you've made as to the reforms that you think we need to do to strengthen voter systems. If all the structures and systems and suggestions are put in place, will there ever be a situation where then enforcing a bill to ensure mandatory voting will be acceptable or permissible?
At some point, it will be clear that there's been improvement in our system, and that at this time there is no longer opportunity to have to lament. Then we can begin. That will be like something in the next decade or so. So you could have reviewed. I am actually telling you that by the 2027 election, if processes are strengthened, laws effective, we must do away with this ballot paper system. That's an argument that I will continue to say, based on the waste and of course the manipulative tendency of it. We cannot rely on this result that we saw in a Kogi election, where they were pre-filled election result sheets. Even though INEC said they were going to interrogate it, they went ahead to declare an election result without interrogating the very corruption in the system, thereby giving nuance to an opportunity to other states to want to do the same. So what I'm actually saying, that in the next decade or so, we would have reviewed our system, would have seen improvement in the governance system, would have seen a democracy that is strengthened, a democracy that truly pulled out the best of its people and not the manipulated candidate of the system. If we are able to get to that point,
all right.
This proposal, we don't need the House of Reps to say it.
Thank you, Mr. Ibe.
Necessarily from the system.
We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have a few more questions to ask you before we wrap up conversation. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're currently discussing the proposal that has passed the second reading. There's also another issue about the voice vote, because you could clearly hear that it wasn't all yeas, but I mean, according to the records, it says it's past the compulsory voting. We'll discuss that some other day. We have Mr. Austin Aigbe, a representative of the Advocacy Officer of West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network. Thank you very much for staying with us, Mr. Aigbe.
Thank you very much.
Following up on our discussion so far, do you believe that, I personally feel if INEC implements all the things you recommend, and if people have faith in the electoral system, you don't need to coerce them to vote. It would solve the problems of voter apathy. Now to my question. My question is, we're 2 years away from 2027. Is there time, and do you see the political will for INEC to implement some reforms?
I can hear you again. Hello?
Yes. In the time we have.
I didn't hear that, please.
I said in the time we have before the 2027.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us? Ms. Aigbe, are you able to hear us? We hope that you can maybe disconnect and rejoin the link. But I believe you wanted to ask me in the short time we have for 2027.
And also, there's a school of thought that believes the political class likes the way the system is, because it's not foolproof. You could easily manipulate it. So it's nice for them to do things they do if they're desperate to win elections. Because if you strengthen the electoral system, if your votes truly count, then they will be forced to work. I mean, that's a school of thought that it's out there in the political discourse. But we hope we can have Mr. Aigbe can connect
All right.
with our
Welcome back, Mr. Aigbe. Can you hear us now? Oh, it doesn't seem like Mr. Aigbe can hear us. We hope that we can, have this conversation again. But I believe that we've been able to stretch out and get the meat of today's conversation. Another angle to ask, beyond looking at INEC's readiness to implement the changes and, all our agencies. All right, Mr. Aigbe, welcome back. Can you hear us now? Is the audio clear where you are? Are you able to hear us?
I can hear you, but I don't know. I can hear you clearly.
Okay, fantastic. My question is, do we have time before 2027 to implement electoral reforms that would actually strengthen, that would make people come out and deal with the problems of voter apathy? They will have more trust in the electoral system. I believe that their votes will count and will be out to do it. I do think that with this current administration and the current leadership at INEC, that they have, do you think they have the political will to implement some of these reforms?
So there are two questions: political will or readiness, or the possibility to reform ahead of 2027 election. First is that yes, it is doable. There is enough time. In fact, in 2022, the 2022 electoral bill was passed in February, and it was still implemented in 2023 elections. We can argue, could that be the reason why we had glitches? Certainly not. Certainly not. The reason for glitches is about technicality, even though people will argue that in Osun election, there was no glitches. In Ekiti election, there was no glitches. In Anambra election, in FCT area council election, there were no glitches.
That was a very important aspect. I would have loved him to land on, but unfortunately, because of technical issues and glitches, because that's the new buzzword now, we couldn't get him.
I'm hoping that also I was hoping that he could speak as to the implication of what this will mean if this bill passes a third reading, if this bill becomes law, because...
Do we have enough jails? Because prison will be full. Everybody in hospital.
You will love it.
You will love it. Everybody in hospital. Then before, the system, it will be system overdrive. Right? You expect these guys to know better.
Because what we have is even...
a form, there should be mechanism against, to address why you didn't vote. And journalists, for example, I'm on electoral duties. How am I supposed to go and vote?
So there are many things.
If you registered,
there are many things to decide if that bill should pass through and if that bill should become law. One, how do you determine people's reasons for missing the elections? How do you determine the validity, what is, what isn't?
How do you investigate
the
resources you would even deploy to do all this?
And then even the punitive measures. Do we have systems and structures that can effectively carry out whatever the punitive measures are? Also, you know,
everybody will pay 100K.
As we are right now, we haven't even been, with the poor voter turnout that we haven't been able to cater to the poor numbers. If everybody shows up, and we handle
some of the statistics Mr. Egbe reeled out,
they're very hard.
Absolutely shocking.
Very
10% of Anambarians voted and put in a governor in office.
When we play that clip,
too.
And I'm hoping we can play the clip again of the lawmakers talking about it, if our producers can help us with that clip. When we play that clip, there was one of the lawmakers who said something that stood out for me, that if we're going to do this, we should also ensure that there are penalties and there are laws that will punish, that will guarantee punitive measures if the votes of the people do not translate.
Good.
Because if you're forcing me to vote, I have to be sure that your system will not glitch. If your system glitches, you're having challenges, you have penalties to face. But I mean, it's still an ongoing conversation.
What about those in hospital? You don't want them to move from hospital to jail.
We haven't even talked about those already in jail and how they also, because they have rights to vote.
Prison congestion already.
Let's go on a quick break, and when we come back, more conversations. Stay with us. Welcome back. In a major security move, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, alongside state governors, have announced the mass deployment of forest guards to combat insecurity in Nigeria. 130,000 armed operatives are to be recruited to secure the country's 1,129 forest reserves. It's an aggressive step, as well as one that also raises crucial questions. Can deploying forest guards curb banditry, kidnapping, and all the other illegal activities in these remote areas? Or is this just another short-term fix for a deeply rooted security crisis? Joining us to give answers to these questions and discussions is the MD CEO, Marine Guards Limited, and a private security consultant, Mr. Amodu Samson Ayebe. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Central TV.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Would you say that it's a step in the right direction to curb insecurity challenges, to hire these people who will become these forest guards? Is it a step in the right direction?
Government upon government, subsequent presidents have tried to bring in quick fix to our security concerns. But I must say this, that majorly we should have put in place a security architecture where governments will come and then build upon, latch upon that structure, and then we keep improving our security. But unfortunately, anytime there is a crisis, they come up with a quick fix. And such quick fix have only given room for people to cash out, especially the state governors, to make more money. If you are recruiting, from what I have, the Office of the National Security Advisor is going to coordinate with the Ministry of Environment to coordinate these recruitment and then deployment of those people. How do we profile them? And I think it would have been better to go through our traditional rulers, district heads. They know these people. Recruit your people, put them in place, and then there is no community you go to that these district heads or these traditional rulers don't know the bad people. So I think going the route of government trying to recruit forest guards, of course it's been in place. Benue State have the former governor, Samuel Otom, His Excellency, tried to set up a private security for the states, and then some other state, about 10 or so. It's not yielding any fruit. What government should do.
I wanted to follow up from what you said. Is the government doing this because we can't possibly have Nigerian security operatives, those who are trained for security, the Nigerian police and members of the Nigerian armed forces, physically man every square kilometer of Nigerian territory? Are they doing this because of a shortfall in manpower? And the second leg of my question is, are these people, these forest guards, are they prepared? Do they have the training? Because forest guards have a different mandate. It's to prevent illegal logging and to protect wildlife. Are they prepared and equipped to handle sophisticated criminal networks operating in the nation's forests, or would they have to go through a different type of training to equip them for, to prepare them for the duty ahead?
Well, to answer your question, we all know the level of sophistication these bandits and criminals have, the kind of weapon they carry that can measure up with what our Nigerian armed forces would have in their armory. So I am not of the opinion to get this, train these people, get them to face this. They carry guns like GPMG, they have arm-mounted trucks. And then what kind of weapon are you going to give to these forest guards to confront these people? That, again, brings us to our law. Our laws do not permit non-state actors to bear weapons other than some other low-lethal weapon. So if you are, if you are trying to recruit forest guards, you train them, you give them maybe an AK-47 assault rifle, or give them a GPMG, and I think you are trying to escalate the crisis, because we all know what happened in the Niger Delta when the agitation started. Like, okay, we want resource control and all of that. Our weapon got into the hands of the wrong people. So this, level of quick fix has always gotten us into trouble rather than solving the problem. I want us to now look at it holistically. Government must sit down and now begin to look at, and these forests are not, spirit forests, or to say, they are forests that are known to us. They are forests that I think there are other measures. Like me, I would suggest that, okay, since these forests are, habitat.
I'm hoping we
have
make it.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah,
we're having network challenges with our guests, but the general consensus is that he doesn't think this is a well-thought advice, and he's also questioned the recruitment process that's coming from the Office of the National Security Advisor, and then the sophistication of the people, the bandits, and these criminal elements. What sort of weapons would you be providing to the forest guards? And is the issue beyond personnel? So questions that are begging for answers.
That's very valid then. Also, to talk about alternative security measures, I think it was last week on the show we talked about vigilantes as well, and talking about what the importance of these vigilantes are. We highlighted the young men in Katsina State who have joined, the force to sort of created a system and structure for themselves to protect themselves, protect their people.
Self-help.
Exactly,
Yes.
It's a system of self-help. And we're asking, are there ways in which we can collaborate with these local security structures that already exist, to collaborate with them in terms of training, in terms of maybe legislation to guide what they do and how they do it, collaboration with already existing armed forces in terms of also, just being able to properly prepare them for and equip them for the fight.
If I could speak to the government or those that design the security architectures, and must everything be recruitment based, and I do understand there's a shortfall of employment, but civil service is already overbloated, and we're talking of streamlining and government efficiency. Are there ways that you could deploy technology to do the work that human beings would do. And if you deploy technology, it's more accurate and advanced because you have eyes in the skies. You could deploy drones, for example, and thermal drones that could give you a temperature reading of this forest. They can monitor human activities, and because of the proliferation of this technology, you don't have to use sophisticated drones with weaponry, those that carry payloads. You could use the ones, you could use, less expensive versions to tell you if there's human activity here, and use the existing forest guards. You could just retrain them and equip them.
So before we are hiring, we need to ensure that it's not a shortage of manpower problem that is the primary cause of the lacuna and gaps that we're seeing, that we're looking at what is the biggest challenge. And many people, I'm not the security expert, but some of the security experts will argue that sometimes it's also...
the security expert in your house, don't you shut your door?
I do. I lock every door and window every night.
Security expert in your house.
Mr. Modu Samson and thank you very much for joining us. We'll still be talking about security and insecurity because it's a growing concern in Nigeria. But let's now move to Delta politics, where the constituents begin the recall process of Senator Dafinone. Some constituents of Senator Edo Dafinone, who represent Delta Central in the National Assembly, have commenced the process of recalling him. Allegations were made regarding the senator's underrepresentation and poor performance. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu tells us more.
Senator Edo Dafinone, elected under the platform of the APC to represent Delta Central in the National Assembly, has barely spent 2 years in office, but some of his constituents have begun to express divergent views about his representation.
Edo is sleeping in the Senate. Edo has failed us. I strongly support the recall of Senator Edo Dafinone. He has failed in every ramification. Is it not now that he's not doing something? He even forgot those who work for him. He forgot those who campaign for him. He forgot all his supporters dead.
For me, he has not done badly because you cannot use 2 years to gauge the performance of a legislator.
This group of individuals operating under Nigeria Police Unit Forum, Delta State chapter, is calling for the senator's recall.
We, the eligible registered voters across party lines of Delta Central Senatorial District, are appealing to the senator representing Delta Central, Honorable Senator Edo Dafinone, to resign honorably.
In a swift reaction, other constituents say otherwise concerning the recall process.
His recall, I don't think is necessary at this stage because he still has like 2 more years to go. He should be given time to bring in more things. At the end of these 2 years, if he's seen not to have made much impact, before maybe the electorate, which is including me, will decide to send him back there or not.
Sincerely appeal to those who have kickstarted that process to have a rethink. They should give him the benefit of doubt to allow him rule this first tenure. And if they are not satisfied with his performance, they can as well use the ballot votes to vote him out.
A recall is the power of voters to unseat a serving lawmaker before the person's tenure expires. But the senator's chief of staff, Adelabu Bonjo, says the recall process is dead on arrival. In Asaba for News Central, Austin Azu.
Interesting to see that this recall, it's been recall season or attempted recall season. We saw that with Senator Natasha. Exactly, hit a brick wall. So I'm not surprised to see this. But if you look online, you will see a myriad of reactions regarding Senator Edo Dafinone's recall. There are those who think that it's political, it is a dead on arrival situation. In fact, I'm seeing a report here saying recall move against Senator Dafinone is dead on arrival, according to Delta APC. There are those who have charged with political blackmail. There are others who think that he must... what I'm seeing online, I'm seeing a lot of support for him online with people saying he must return and that they know why that all of this is political gimmick and political strategy.
He's been very active in the... just visually, we saw him earlier today in the Senate. He's always at present. Maybe they want constituency projects and things like that, that we didn't take you there to just go and sit.
Let me even read one comment from a certain Fego Okonedu, who says, Senator Dafinone has done well as far as the constituency budgets and projects are concerned. The area I have an issue with him is not being pro-Urobo enough, as I have learned. If you burn yourself to keep others warm, some will still criticize you for not being hot enough. And there are those who say Senator Dafinone must return as Senator of Delta Central. We know the reason behind the recent social media attack and the person behind it. This is from Chinedu Meme. Chinedu Meme, please come and tell us who is behind, behind this. And
true investigative journalism. We have to go on a quick break now, and when we return, it will be breakfast headlines. You stay with us. We'll be right back now.
But now let's share with you what's still to come.
Hello, welcome to News Central TV. This is Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Borowa. News Central Television held another town hall in Rivers State, continuing its mission to amplify citizens' voices and promote accountability in governance. The event provided a platform for community members to engage directly with leaders and pressing local issues. The event brought together stakeholders from various sectors to address the state's challenges, including the imposed state of emergency. Participants discussed the root causes of the crisis and proposed practical solutions aimed at restoring peace and stability.
And in Nigeria, not just now, governance has become personalized. And when the personalities, the expectations are no longer met, you see the pot begin to boil. Now the system is run by three pillars: the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. There is checks and balances. But when these three structures have collapsed into one amalgam, then the checks and balances are dissolved.
At a point, there was a pressure, and we could feel the pressure from the utterances of people within the state. The former governor would make utterances, and those who follow him will make utterances. Those who follow the governor will also make utterances. But the utterances always bordered on one thing: who owns the state? Who leads the state? Who is in charge in the state?
We have lost sight of the fact that political disagreements in Rivers State were taken out of the context, and they began to delve into ethnicity, pursuing ethnic agenda of domination. This exacerbated the crisis in Rivers State, where some persons who were friends disagreed, politically speaking, and those disagreements were supposed to be handled politically. But ethnic bigots, some persons started making ethnic rhetorics that led to division that deepened the crisis we have in Rivers State.
So what I can only say is, let's give peace a chance, and the time is now. So at that point, may God bless us, guide us as we heal, support the healing in the name of Jesus.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has called for the creation of computer-based testing centers in all 774 local government areas across Nigeria to support the Unified Tertiary Matriculation examination. Lawmakers believe this initiative will enhance access, ease logistical difficulties, and ensure a more equitable examination process nationwide. The lawmakers made the resolution during plenary on Thursday following the admission of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board that there were glitches in this year's examination. According to the lawmakers, the move would aid in forestalling future reoccurrence. The House also called for calm in the wake of JAMB's admission to errors in the 2025 UTME and rescheduling receipts for affected candidates. Last month, the Senate considered a similar resolution saying there will be budgetary provisions in the 2026 fiscal year for the establishment of CBT centers across the 774 local government areas in the country. The National Orientation Agency has commended the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, for its exceptional transparency and accountability in addressing the challenges that followed the recently concluded 2025 Unified Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. The agency described JAMB's public admission of its shortcomings as a rare and commendable display of leadership, one that demonstrates a strong sense of institutional responsibility. NOA Director General Larry Nilu praised the JAMB Registrar, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, for embodying the integrity and courage expected of public office holders. He noted that his openness is not only reflective of the Registrar's personal values, but also aligns with the National Values Charter, which urges public institutions to operate with the utmost transparency and accountability. However, Onilu stressed the importance of going beyond apologies. He urged JAMB to implement remedial measures that directly address the concerns of the affected candidates, parents, and stakeholders. Aminu Jaji, a member of the House of Representatives from Zamfara State, has raised alarm over worsening insecurity in the state. He stated that communities in his constituency are under siege by armed bandits who kill, rob, and maim without restraint. Jaji urged urgent intervention to address the growing threat and protect affected residents. Jaji expressed concerns over the worsening insecurity crisis and alleged that several individuals close to the president may not be providing him with accurate information on the true situation in the northwest region.
We need the government to do more in ensuring that this problem is being addressed, because our people are becoming vulnerable by the day. They are not having access to their farmland. The level of the economy is down because they are so much affected. We are so much devastated that no one can go to his farm and farm in order to have a way of living. Completely, the livelihood of the people of Zamfara State is upset, and then anybody that went to Zamfara, he knows that the people of this are only moving around, not because of they know where they are going to, but simply because they just must move.
The House of Representatives has urged the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Army, and other security agencies to intensify efforts in ending the spate of killings and kidnappings in Irodo Jesse, Ethiopia West local government area of Delta State, south of Nigeria. This followed a motion of urgent public importance raised on the floor of the House by lawmaker Eriatiake Iboriswenu, who expressed concerns over the loss of lives and displacement of residents in the affected communities. Iboriswenu also called for the provision of relief materials to support victims and families affected. The House further urged the Inspector General of Police to deploy a special squad to protect lives, restore peace in the area, and conduct a thorough investigation to identify and prosecute the perpetrators, thereby delivering justice to the affected communities. In East Africa, Ugandan General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, son of longtime President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and widely regarded as his likely successor, sparked controversy on Thursday with a string of provocative posts on social media that drew widespread attention and criticism. Posting on X, former Twitter, General Kainerugaba warned that citizens who vote against his father in the upcoming polls risk deportation. In a separate announcement, the general also declared a ban on women in Ugandan army from wearing trousers, a move already drawing criticism from rights groups and gender equality advocates. This comes amidst growing concerns over political repression. Uganda's political climate remains fourth as President Museveni, who has ruled the country since 1986, prepares for yet another term in office. And that's all on the news at this hour. I am Benga Boa. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're now looking at what the front pages of the newspapers are saying this morning, and we'll also open the phone lines if you'd like to make a comment or say something regarding any of the stories. Please feel free to call in. The numbers to call are on your TV screen. We'll now begin this morning with the Punch newspaper, and on the front page of the Punch newspaper, the headline reads, Economic strain, inflation surges above 30% in Abuja and 10 states. Food inflation hits 51.8% in Benue amid persistent insecurity. OPS lamenting rising prices. What?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Food inflation is 51.8% in Benue. Benue, the food basket of the nation.
So imagine the implications. And statistically, most Nigerian households spend their income on food. So these has ripple effects on the lives of ordinary Nigerians. That's a huge number, and it's going to trickle down to other states. So we really need to deal with insecurity in Benue State so that these farmers can go to their farms.
No, this is not good at all.
It's really not good. Around December, we saw a drop in the price of food, but this has reversed all the gains that we had in the past, and hopefully the government will be able to do something lasting and holistic about the insecurity in the Benue.
Okay, anyway, we can see here Nigerian Air Force. There's a picture of the Nigerian Air Force during an open day to the public as part of the activities marking the 61st anniversary of NAF at 631 Aircraft Maintenance Depot, Ikeja, Lagos. If you remember, some days ago, those on the island in the Lekki axis, it was as if the planes were flying up and down. I have to tweet that. Are we safe? What's going on? Why am I hearing this much planes, flying over? But yeah, they're celebrating their Army Day. But I mean, there are more stories to look at.
Yes, the Nigerian Air Force Day, 65th anniversary. And I'm telling you, the Nigerian Air Force is one of the pride of the nation. In the last few years, they've been able to add to their inventory, and they have very sophisticated, highly trained Air Force. So kudos to them. We celebrate them, and it would be great to look at their achievements. We can invite them, a representative spokesperson, to join us and talk about it. But there's still more stories on the front page. Still on the front page of the Punch newspapers, parents fear WAEC UTME overlap as receipt begins today. We discussed this earlier with our guest. Tinubu to join world leaders at Pope's inauguration. That means Mr. President is traveling again, and I'm sure from there he will head to London for the ministerial, for the 2 years assessment of his administration and achievement. So another foreign trip.
It's so nice.
Yes, on the cards. Service chiefs tour military bases after terror attacks. APC films as Atiku names parties in anti-Tinubu coalition. I mean, why is the APC angry? I mean, he's just naming the parties that are in anti-Tinubu. This is a democracy.
No, APC, maybe they are just taking it out of context, because APC right now, they are the happening party, they are the social
National Assembly divided as compulsory voting bill advances. We did have a conversation about this, and I heard that part where the deputy Senate president said ayes or nails, and it was a mixture, but maybe due to what he wanted, he said the ayes have it. So we really need to look at X-ray the National Assembly and this their voice voting method. I believe it's outdated, and you should also have the electronic voting system that registers how a representative or senator votes, so your constituents can hold you accountable because you're representing them. If they don't want this sort of things, you don't have the right to vote in a certain way. So it deepens our democracy and it's more transparent.
All right, still looking at the front page of the Punch newspaper. Parents fear WAEC and UTME overlap as receipt begins today. We've been following up with this JAMB story, and remember that that was part of the concern that was expressed by a number of parents, because they're saying, look, if JAMB is saying they're taking responsibility and that there's a receipt happening this weekend, then what is the fate of the students who unfortunately have had to deal with the emotional turmoil that came with the poor result announcements, and now they have to write exams. So here JAMB, WAEC has practicals as well. So how do they find...
Look at that LASIEC story. That's Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission. They're writing to INEC over 3 LP factions in Lagos. Maybe they are candidates from the Aburi faction, and Adi Usman and Lamidi Abapa faction. So, INEC, I wonder how INEC is going to reply. Maybe they'll use Omawumi's famous song to respond to LASIEC.
All right, I think we have one more story on the front page of the Punch before we move on. It says 5 arrested over 2-week-old babies sale. This is so sad. Trafficking of persons is still a problem and a challenge that we're dealing with in the country, and I mean it's a problem around the world.
But buyers and sellers, how do they even connect?
It's higher levels of poverty, higher levels of depravity that lead to things. So there's the poverty argument, but then there's also the greed.
For the person who wants, I mean, you just showing up to work with
they're selling the babies for several reasons. So the reasons why they will sell the babies would of course be for those, there are certain people who don't have children but are looking for illegal means to have children. There are other situations where people groom these children. I mean, you've heard of baby factory. I don't know if you've seen baby factory.
I mean, they have neighbors, they have family members. How do you show up with a baby without being previously pregnant?
Well, you can lie that you adopted the baby. You can lie that, you have a family member who had the baby and died at birth. People come up with different reasons. And there's also the traditional reason.
They pillow in their stomach.
There's also the fetish reason, right? Where people would use these babies, unfortunately, for sacrifice. We're still in 2025 where people believe you can take human parts and use it to do sacrifice for wealth and the things like that, which is very, very unfortunate.
Very
but let's now move on to the Nigerian Tribune. And on the front page, the big story, UTME reps to probe poor performance to provide allocation for construction of CBT centers in 774 local government areas in 2026 budget. Advises board to release results of under 16 candidates. And still on the front page, Odua's investment company posts 82 billion naira comprehensive revenue, declares 518 million naira dividend. Oyo government to deliver circular road 2027. Court convicts 10 Thai sailors. Ship slams $4.3 million fine over 32.9 kilogram of cocaine trafficking.
That's a huge amount.
I believe these people are from Thailand.
Yes.
This is the same Thailand where if they try this in their country,
it's death penalty.
Death penalty. I remember when I was going to Thailand and everybody was saying, you have to be extra careful with your bags. They're not even going to hear that, somebody planted it in my bag. Because I was going to Thailand, I bought those boxes that you use numbers to lock. So that I don't know I didn't they don't even have zips. Like, you literally have to break my box. And if my box comes to me broken, then I know somebody has tampered with it and I can raise an alarm. That's how scared I was of carrying a box to Thailand and hoping that somebody doesn't slip something into my box. Then they come and try that. Wow, it's really sad.
It's really sad. There's another headline here, and I like how it's framed from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Nigeria's inflation eases to 23.71%. 23.71% is still very high, so there's no ease in it from the people filling the page. There's no ease in 23.71%. Reps push for 6 months imprisonment, 100,000 naira fine for non-voting. We covered that earlier. And Bauchi governor insulted my late father, threatened to slap me, says the foreign minister. That's a serious one.
Very serious one. Still on the front page of the newspapers, we can see here, again, PDP, NPP lose 3 reps to APC. APC National Chairman Ganduje witnesses defection. Ganduje is standing as the witness to this. Of course, he has said over and over again, there's nothing bad in defecting. There's nothing like a one-party state. They are moving there because they see that the party is showing working. So, the APC is the popular kid, the new kid on the block. I think the final story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, kidnappers seize ransom bearers in Ondo, demand 30 million naira for APC chair, 2 others released. See how bad it is. They've kidnapped people. These people they've taken the ransom to the kidnappers. And the ransom bearers were now kidnapped.
It's really, really sad. And I really don't know what penalty. But you are against capital punishment. I feel kidnappers should face the capital punishment because it's traumatizing, it's criminal, and then people have lost their lives as a result of this. And you wonder why we haven't been able to do something about this. Every other week there's a story about kidnappings here and there. You believe that the Nigerian police and security forces should be at the top of this, but it seems their priorities are different. I mean, the police is focused right now on tint permits when we still have incidents of kidnappings here and there. It leaves much more to be done.
Just to give you a brief background to the story. So it was the APC Ward 5 chairman of the party in Ose local government area of Edo State, Nelson Adepoyigi. So they kidnapped him and they initially demanded 100 million naira. After negotiation, they came back to asking for 5 million naira and foodstuff. The two ransom bearers took the 5 million naira that these kidnappers demanded and the foodstuffs to them. When they got there, they kidnapped them as well. Now they're asking for 30 million naira. Like how inhumane, how wicked, how despicable is this?
And these monies are not hard to find. Imagine the torture and the stress the family had to go through to raise the initial 5 million. It's really, really, really unfair. And it goes to talk about, it speaks to our value system. We really need a better approach, an overhaul of our morals, and we need to look in the mirror as a society.
Well, these are the things when they talk about Japa. Whilst we are not endorsing Japa, a number of people that are running away are not running away just because the quality of life is subpar. It's because they want to be able to know that they can go home and nobody will appear in front of their house with a gun to kidnap them and ask for ransom. We'll go on a break now. When we come back, we'll still be reviewing more stories from the front pages this morning. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still reviewing the front pages of the papers this morning, and we'll get into our final headlines, and then we'll bring in our guests. Let's look at the Vanguard newspaper. I believe we haven't looked at the Vanguard this morning. On the front page of the Vanguard, we have ways out of banditry insurgency by ex-generals, security experts this morning. We also have UTME glitches, Obi Ezekwesili, worry over impacts of students and parents as well. We did talk about the mental impact of students and parents as well. And then we also have defections. We don't want Nigeria becoming a one-party state. Bandits attack, abduct Kogi monarch from palace. 2027 APC, PDP, Labour Party involved in anti-Tinubu coalition, article says. Pope Leo XIV invites Tinubu to inauguration in Rome. We're joined this morning by public affairs analyst Nelson Ogujimi. He's joining us this morning to review the papers. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. So we have Nelson Ogujimi. Sorry for that. All right, just to get straight into the conversation about banditry, insurgency. We at the start of the show did talk about the inauguration of forest guards, that there are a number of people that will be employed to become forest guards. And I wanted to ask if you think this is a step in the right direction. Are you worried about the state of insecurity? Just a few minutes ago as well, we talked about the APC Ward 5 chairman who was kidnapped in Edo State, and then they demanded for 100 million, negotiated down to 5 million and foodstuff. The two ransom bearers who went there were also now kidnapped, and now they're asking for 30 million for all three of them to be released. So are we dealing with insecurity with the sense of urgency that we ought to deal with it with?
Yes, I absolutely think as much as we are saddened about the security challenges confronting our nation, which didn't start today, we must make that very clear. It has been with us. And so long as human beings are on Mother Earth, people of evil minds who want to perpetrate their acts, it is for those with good intentions, those who want peace, love and harmony in any society, not to give up, not to surrender the battle. Looking at our security situation today, it's something that we are not happy about. But be that as it may, we need to put all our heads together. If we need to even call for foreign assistance in terms of strategy
because the banditry, kidnapping and what have you is assuming a dimension that is, alarming, that is unacceptable, in any society. So as a Nigerian, I'm pained, I'm hurt that this is happening, and I'm looking at how we can overcome it. But most importantly, the collaboration, the support of the locals is very, very key, because it's a strong impediment, to curtailing banditry, kidnapping. I've had opportunity to sit with people in the rural areas, and people tell me that, look, we knew all these guys doing these things, but because we are not affected, so everybody stays on his lane, like we say in our.
So that means we really don't have the political will to fight insecurity.
Pardon?
So are you saying that the government of the day doesn't have the political will?
It's not the political will, it's the conspiracy, the local conspiracy. Because when banditry or kidnapping occurs in any environment, the people living in that environment know all these things. But how are they keen into the battle? Are they aware that they are part of the security architecture, that it is not the duty of the policeman or the military guys alone? Because the military guys or the policeman is a human being like you and I. He could be shot and killed. So if the security agencies, the operatives are not safe, if you are not bothered about their, their security, when the criminals, when the men of darkness, overcomes them, then you'll be the next target. So the collaboration, the support, whatever we need to get the people living in the grassroots, the non-kinetic engagement, we need to up the ante. So it's not only about kinetic approach. When people are ready to give information that, look, we have seen this in this environment, please, can you please come and act? And the security agencies are also doing their part. But most importantly, like we say, the right and the left must watch each other for the hands to be clean. So the locals, the people themselves need to recognize their critical, importance in this fight against insecurity.
Now, to the question of the forest guards that have just been appointed, how much difference do you think it will make, and is it a step in the right direction?
Oh, absolutely. It's been long overdue. If you recollect, I think it was in 2021 or 2022, if I'm right, when the Ooni of Ife raised an alarm that, and even some of the local, traditional rulers raised an alarm that our forests have been, taken over by bandits, and what have you. And if you remember also, the former governor of Edo State, late Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, gave marching orders for people to vacate, illegal occupiers to vacate the forest. So if we have identified the security lacuna in our forests, and we are deploying this strategy to curtail it, I think it will go a long way in minimizing the security threats.
All right. There's a big story on the front page of the Punch newspaper that gives me great cause for concern. It's talking about inflation. Inflation surges above 30% in Abuja and 10 states. And in Benue, 51.8% food inflation amid persistent insecurity. So what is the implication of this for the nation at large? If Benue, the food basket of the nation, is dealing with food inflation at 51.8%, what becomes of the rest of the country?
Well, what becomes of the rest of the country, because we all recognize Benue State as the food basket, and if the people of Benue who produce our food cannot get food, accessible and affordable, then you can be rest assured that sooner or later it will get to all of us. So the security challenges in the Benue, in the plateau, is really having a great toll on our economy, inflation-wise, because ordinarily farmers are supposed to go to the farms. Elders are supposed to pasture their flock. But when people who produce what you need to stay alive are unable to exercise that function, definitely you are under threat. So it's something that is worrisome, that I want to believe strongly that those at the end of our affairs are not, they are not sleeping over it. They are thinking seriously. And
do you genuinely believe that?
I honestly believe, because
it feels like Nigerians don't feel that sense of urgency.
No, I don't know the Nigerians you are talking about, because I'm a Nigerian. So if you don't feel because you are not there, they have sworn on oath, they took up a responsibility to perform a job. And if there are challenges in that job, it is for us to ask questions. So it is not for us to just assume in a safe zone that they are not doing anything.
Okay,
no,
how soon do we begin to expect results, like a turning around of the situation in Plateau and Benue?
Well, the governments in those two states, we have seen them take some steps. And in the last couple of days, it's like respite is coming. But we must not rest on our oars. I watched the governor of Plateau State. He made some comments, and those comments were very germane. You know, where the man said he's ready to tell the cameras to excuse a discussion with the local people that, look, you are the key to this problem. You are the one that can tell us this is the time these guys move. This is where they come from. Because our security architecture is such that it is not localized. When the security man comes, I'm a security expert, for example, or a security operative, I'm posted from Lagos to maybe Benue. I don't know anywhere in Benue, you know. So I'll be guided by what I see in the books and what I'm told. So if the people themselves key into this, gradually we'll get over it.
Okay, I wanted to pick up a story that is not yet in the paper. But let's take this call. We have a call from Ibafo. Good morning, Lawrence.
Hello.
We've lost the call with Lawrence. Okay, let's look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune and have your reaction to the challenge with the JAMB, with the UTME. Professor Shakoloyede has come out to publicly apologize. Nigerians are calling for his not figurative head.
Some Nigerians, don't say Nigerians. Some Nigerians.
Well, a lot of Nigerians.
Don't say a lot. You didn't carry out a survey. I disagree.
Okay, so why
you say a number of Nigerians,
okay,
because you don't have
Is it fair to say a huge number of Nigerians?
No,
judging from the criticism on social media.
It's not fair. If you say a number of Nigerians, because I, for example, I'm not calling for a sack.
Well,
because I know where JAMB was before the man came in. As much as I'm saddened, this morning leaving my house, I saw parents with their kids at the centers, just like they did some weeks back. So you can imagine that, that trauma. Even as a Nigerian, as somebody who is not involved, I feel the pains. Because whatever happens to our country affects every one of us. It tells on our image. Like there's a Japanese proverb that says, when you fall 7 times, you must be able to rise 8 times, And like Leshifa Obafemalo rightly said, it is not about a man not falling, but in the ability to rise after every fall. Life is about ups and downs. This thing, what has happened to JAMB with regards to the glitch, is regrettable. It's a sad reality on all of us. But that does not mean we should throw away the baby with the bathwater. We have a JAMB examination today, UTME examination, where the boy sitting next to me, even though we are writing the same English, my own number 1 question is maybe number 30. In the past, magic center, what do you call them, special centers were the order of the day. So if this has happened and JAMB has come out, we should all, commiserate with JAMB that thank you for telling us this truth, but please, when next you are conducting these exams, ensure that you have dotted your I's and you have crossed your T's, because right now, resources are being deployed again.
So are you confident that this remedial examinations that are taken, we won't have the same glitches and the same errors that happened in the first?
I have confidence in God, but I'm hopeful.
You have confidence in?
I have confidence in God.
Okay.
But I am very, very hopeful, because I saw the situation today, and I saw that JAMB has not lowered the standard. In the CBT centers where I passed through this morning, early in the morning I went out. I saw NSCDC security operatives. Parents were made to stay about 200 to 500 meters. You know what happens during my days? Even though our parents were not going to exam centers, the way parents go there in the morning and stay all through. But exam centers in those days were like a marketplace. But now there's order. So we have made tremendous progress. So we must not, overlook. Yes, we must not do that. It's not right.
When I'm talking about that, I just searched for Ishakoloyede on X. And the first few tweets that I saw, this is not my personal opinion. I reflect the opinion of the Nigerian people and what we see here. So the first few reactions you see are people criticizing him and saying that, that cry is not enough, because of course there's the talk about the young girl who has lost her life and the fact that this is the destiny of young Nigerians. Another body that has been implicated as a result of JAMB is INEC. In fact, people are saying that till today we never got, part of the response, because we have a segment called What Nigerians Are Saying, where we take tweets and x-ray the statements of Nigerians about certain issues. And they pointed fingers at INEC, saying that at least Professor Ishakoloride came out and took responsibility and apologized. And when is INEC going to come and apologize to Nigerians for the technical glitches that they said they had?
Look, I think you need to organize a program here where you educate your viewers about the rules and regulations governing elections. On election, go and look at our Electoral Act. It says a party agent will get a copy of result sheet. It is that result sheet that glitch, did it affect the result sheet that was given to party agents or the one that was given to security operatives?
So you genuinely believe that there weren't really issues with it?
There was no issue. People are just overflogging it because the court has even come out to tell you that the IREV is a viewing portal. It's not a collation center.
But INEC overpromised and underdelivered. Like the
How did they overpromise?
They said IREV.
They said they were going to do
and there were BVAS. Not the BVAS didn't deploy.
No, it's not the BVAS. It's IREV.
The BVAS. So many people couldn't verify.
Many people couldn't verify their identity there. This one happened at my polling center because I went to vote. There were people who they tried to verify their identity. The machine could not detect their identity. So there were lots of complaints about that. There were people who talked about the BVAS itself being. There was a particular report of it printing out somebody's picture instead of showing numbers. So
please, I've been on election duties in this country since 1999. I have made my own little contribution in the midst of millions of Nigerians who want our elections to be better. And we have made progress. When you are talking about BVAS, BVAS is an equipment that can function or malfunction. At the end of the 2023 general elections, we did a survey of the functionality of the BVAS. And we said the BVAS function in 98% of the centers. The BVAS is such that where INEC has done tremendously well, the BVAS is such that BVAS is configured for each polling unit with an alternative. A BVAS machine assigned to polling unit 01, if you take it to polling unit 02, it will not work. Because the data of the voters in that polling unit is not on it. The ballot papers for polling unit 01, you can't take it to polling. All these anomalies that were with us in those days, we have eliminated.
So from what you're saying, is it that we don't need to reform the electoral system? INEC is working well, and we should proceed from the way they conducted 2023 elections to 2027?
As we sit here, the 2023 elections from days immemorial has been our best. I can say it authoritatively.
They always say June 12, 1993.
No, the equipment we used in 2023, we didn't use that. Option A4, you line up for your candidate or your party logo. But in this election, we had technological improvements. That is not to say that there are no challenges. For example, we have the issue of logistics. For example, also, on the day of election, on the day of the presidential election, in my polling units, the electoral officer brought his materials, we had set up, everybody was ready to vote. The first person went to the BVAS, he couldn't authenticate him. Second person went there, he couldn't authenticate. We were spent close to an hour. We were wondering what was the problem. Before we realized that the BVAS machine and other equipment brought to our polling units was for another polling unit. Okay. It was when we now did a change. Immediately everything started working.
But at the end of the day, it is not my responsibility as the electorate.
No, I just admitted that there are some challenges.
But beyond that, the Commonwealth Observer Group, European Mission, they all had their reports about the 2023 elections, yes, and a number of them talked about how the failure of BVAS, IREV, affected integrity. We can't go into that.
Let me talk about that.
Because we have to.
Commonwealth cannot tell me how to run my business.
You know what?
And again, how many people
we have to invite you again.
Yes.
We have to invite you again for a proper conversation and to ask our audience, what your thoughts are. Mr. Nelson Ekujimi does think that the 2023 elections conducted in Nigeria are the best elections that we've had so far. And you can tweet at us to let us conversation about the country. I am Olive Emodi, and I'll see you again on Monday.
And I'm Ben Gabor. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.